Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental A-Team Podcast. Hello, Dental A-Team listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys, I feel so jazzed because I get to have this is a famous woman on the podcast with me. You guys have heard her many times. This is Dr. Summer Kassmel's practice administrator, one of my great friends, somebody I look up to a ton, Debbie Dodson. She is here again, and we're going to go into an incredible topic. You guys are going to love it. She's a wealth of knowledge. So, Debbie, how are you today?
I am great. I hope I can live up to that intro.
I got to stop doing that. People always tell me Kiera, that was too hyped up. And I'm like, no, but that's really how I feel about this. It's going to be incredible. And Debbie, you're one of the most humble people I know, but you seriously have so much to give back to the dental community, so much to just give the world. So don't sell yourself short. You're going to come in hot on this one. It's going to be a good episode.
Okay.
By the way, how's Colorado today? Is it cold? Is it warm?
It is cold here. Yes, it was negative 17 this morning.
Oh, good thing you love the snow. Debbie, you're so funny because I'm like, I bet you hate it. And your eyes literally light up every time I talk about it. And you're like, no, I love the snow. I want it to snow more.
Oh, I want it every day. I love the snow. Yeah.
Have you been skiing this season?
No. I have skied less now that I live in Colorado than when I lived in Texas. I skied more when I lived there.
That's pretty impressive. Because it was planned. You had to plan for it before, right?
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's dive into, we're going to go into mergers because you and Dr. Kassmel have done 2 mergers in the last couple of years. And I think mergers are a little intimidating. I know when I did my first, we didn't merge a practice into mine. I bought another location, but then we merged charts and people. So I think merging versus buying another practice, they have a lot of similarities. And I thought this would be an incredible topic. You've got a lot of experience in it. So we can help other people who are looking to merge or to buy another location. Just some of the lessons you've learned, things I've learned to really help other people when they're getting ready to do this. And you've already done 2 and you did them back to back pretty quickly. So if you're open to that, let's dive into that today.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So talk to me a little bit about, just kind of walk me through your experience of the first one. Things that you learned, things that if you went back in time, you'd never do again. Let's just kind of walk through the first one and even how that came about for you.
So the first merger that we did, looking back, one thing that I loved that we did is we were able to go into that office and meet the staff beforehand. I would say maybe a couple months before the actual merger took place. Mm-hmm. We did give the employees our job packets that we had created. And then we actually brought them to our practice to meet with our department heads, sit down one-on-one. And it was basically kind of like a job interview. Mm-hmm. We sat with them, had focus time with them, went over those job packets and kind of what we're about, our core values. We always hit hard on any job interview. So I loved that we actually had that time to spend with them and see if they were going to be a great fit. Mm-hmm. There was an employee that we didn't choose to bring over during the merge.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah, before that took place. So I loved that we could kind of treat them as if they were coming in, applying for a job. We had the same expectations as any new hire. Mm-hmm. They had 30, 60, and 90-day evaluations. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that I think going into a merger, if a practice has the time and everything falls in line to do it that way, I would recommend that.
For sure. And I love that you said that you treated them as if you were hiring them for a job, because the reality is a lot of times I think when we merge or we buy another practice, we forget that we are rehiring these people. We get to choose, do we want them or do we not want them? Do they fit what we want? And so many people have a scarcity mindset thinking, well, if I lose this hygienist or I lose this front office when we merge, the whole practice is going to fall apart. Now, I will tell you, I made a big mistake when we bought our second practice, and I was a little bit, I don't think I had quite as much poise or finesse as you do, Debbie. And we got rid of a hygienist, which was not bad for the practice, but she ended up taking a lot of the patients with her. So that was something I wish I would not have done in hindsight. However, I think had I gone in like you guys had done, these are our core values, she might have self-eliminated more so on her own as opposed to the other route that I had done.
Right.
So I do love that because, and so many people have told me, I mean, there's even another doctor who buys practices and his philosophy is he like shuts down the practice for 2 weeks, guts the entire location, fires everybody and rehires people.
Oh, wow.
Because he just starts completely fresh because he just found that works better for him. I don't think that that's necessarily the case, but I really think it's important when you are doing a merge or buying another practice that you do remember you are determining, do you want these people in your practice? Like Summer says, Dr. Kassmel, protect your house, protect it. Are these people we want to work with?
Right.
Are they good to work with? And do they fit the core values? And I also love that you set the standard for these people of we do 30, 60, 90. This is how we run. These are the systems we're doing. And you said that right at the beginning. I think that probably eliminates a lot of the drama later on that could be prevalent if you didn't choose that.
Right. Yeah. And I think, I believe that they will self-eliminate when you set the expectations from the start. And this is what we're about. And here's what I expect from you. Yeah. I think they'll choose.
I agree.
Different, maybe.
They might opt for another job. And that's great because then, I mean, they're not going to speak poorly of you. Like, I just didn't resonate with their core values. Okay. Well, it's nothing about the dentistry. It's nothing negative. They're not going to go run amok your name through the neighborhood, like slandering it. It's just, that wasn't quite what I wanted. And there's nothing negative. It's not like you ran them hard or you were mean to them or you came in and changed everything on them. You literally say, this is what we're doing. This is what we're about. Clear expectations, and then they can opt out if they want. So good work on that. I agree that was a real good way to start that out.
Yeah. And it was, it wasn't, we will do anything in our power to bring on these young women or men and help them succeed in our environment. But, when it's a glaring, like this is not going to work, we just chose not to move forward.
Sure. Okay. I like that. And I think that that's a really good place to start because the employees, if you don't have a good culture or you're trying to work that, I was working with another office manager. She went from office manager to regional manager and she realized she was walking in there and she said, hey guys, like we're really not going to change a lot. And then she was really struggling with this whole team. And I said, it's because you're not speaking with integrity. Bottom line is, you're coming in to change a decent amount, but you're going to be there to support them. You want their input. You want to get their ideas. But also, I think setting true, honest expectations and speaking with integrity of this is what we're about. Does this jive with you or does it not? Is a real good way to set the groundwork of open, honest communication as well to really have a more successful merge as opposed to unmet expectation merge.
Right.
Good. Yeah. All right. What other things did you glean from your mergers, Debbie?
Oh, wow. I think that is probably a wise choice to either choose a week or at least a week, I think, maybe two, to just kind of shut down the office and kind of have some in-service training with the new team members. That is something that we didn't do with either practice, really, which would have been good. One thing that we learned from the first merger was to have the other office get on the same software.
Yes.
So the first merger was a fiasco a little bit.
I love that there's even like trepidation talking about it. Like it was a little bit of a fiasco. Okay.
I kind of lost it for a day or two during that whole transaction. So we actually hadn't planned to start on Open Dental. We were on Dentrix, and the two Dentrix databases wouldn't quite merge together. So we were hand transferring patients and putting appointments in. And so we just kind of had to make a choice like we've got to do something. We have to switch to open dental and just start somewhere. So wisely, we actually made that choice and left the office on a Friday and came back on a Monday, and we were live on open dental.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's how you need to do that. Rip those bandages off when you swap softwares.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. So I would say that is definitely one thing that we learned from the first merger is just figure out a way to make the two softwares merge together.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. Did you guys have anything, because I know when I bought our next practice, something we ran into when it came to the software, we for sure did the same thing, transferred it to the same software. That way we're on the same one. We also went through and made all of our provider colors the same colors. So if Dr. Kassmel's in Castle Peak, but then she goes over to Avon, making sure both software, she's the color green at both of them. So we had the same provider code,
Correct.
So it at least looked the same, even though for the new people the existing team might be a little fuzzy for them. At least the people who own the practice can see what's going on. So it makes it easier for you. But we also had a big thing when it came to fees, because the fees at both of our locations weren't the same.
Oh, yeah.
And then we started having patients like mixing. And originally we wanted to keep patients at one location. And then we had different fees. Did you guys run into that at all? Because I know that was something big we ran into that I didn't even think about. I was thinking like, get the cable set up, make sure I've got internet over there, as opposed to remembering that fees and transferring patients between the locations. Have you run into that at all, or what have you found with that?
They were a little bit different, not drastically. So that didn't really affect us all that much. But yeah, I can see how that would happen, even if it's off just a couple of dollars, just to keep things consistent and the same.
Do you allow patients, or are your practices too far apart? Because I know for us, patients started when they found out we had another location. They wanted to jump to the other location. Did you notice any of that when you merged?
We noticed a little bit when they found out we had the other location in Avon. If they worked over there and it was easier for them to get there, they would ask if it was okay. And absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we always want to do what works best for the patient. So we've noticed it somewhat. We're pretty close together, so not a huge amount.
Yes. That was something I think by having standardized fees, having a software that looked the same, and also with Dentrix, because that was the one I was on, we had to have like a log me in or a team viewer so you could remote into the other software. But on Open Dental, it's pretty dreamy. I don't know if this is for you guys, but a lot of offices that have multiple locations, you can have Open Dental put it all on one server. So then you can just click between each location and make it a lot easier to see. And when they're set up exactly the same, that was a game changer for us that I did not think about until we were working in both locations, and it was a little bit of a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you're wanting to keep the systems kind of the same in both offices, and that's something that we're really working on right now. If you want an employee to kind of fill in for another person, you want the systems to be the same. So I would say making sure that all forms are the same, they're in the same location. They could just drop down into another practice and pick up as if they were in that other practice.
That's really, really smart. And I mean, I didn't even think about it, but the more consistent they can be, you're exactly right. It's much easier to have them map out. A lot of other offices, even in the back in the operatories, we went in and standardized because you know what? Maybe the new location does something better than what your flagship does. So taking both ideas, but making sure that they do match and mirror. But I am curious, Debbie, what did you guys find or how did you navigate through kind of changing all those pieces at a new location with everybody not... Like, how did you get them on board to change the forms and to change the software? What were kind of your strategies on that? Things that maybe went well or things that were that, oh, I learned this lesson and I would probably never do that again. What did you learn with trying to get them on board with changing over?
Wow. With the first merge, we started them off day one. Like, here's how we do it. Here's your end of day sheet. Here's what you're tracking. Here's the form for this. Here's the form for that. I think it just happened because we had set that expectation beforehand, and the team that came over in the first merge were very eager and excited, I think, to have some systems in place and to have some accountability and some guidance.
Mm-hmm. So it's probably how you presented it would be my guess from an outsider's perspective. I would guess the way you presented all of this change, I mean, people don't usually get excited and eager for change unless it's presented in a way that really feels this is exciting and this is awesome and we can't wait for it. So my guess is you did a really good job being a phenomenal word ninja to present that. And do you think that just came from like the one-on-ones and discussing with them, kind of telling them this is what we're about, these are our core values, and getting the buy-in that way so they're already ready to go for the systems and the checklist?
I definitely think so. And that is where, in the one case employee that we didn't bring over, that is where we found that this is not going to work.
I see. That makes sense. Nice. I like that. Those are really good points. Okay. What other things from either merger? Let's just kind of do a riff. Other things you learned, things that you look back and you giggle about, thinking like, I totally should never have done that, but I did it not knowing. What are some other things that you have learned through these mergers that if you were speaking to yourself a few years ago, you'd say, Debbie, you really should do this or don't do this? What are some things that you've learned?
Another thing that I think we learned is we're pretty particular about our insurance verification process and how we set up the insurance companies and the software. And not all offices are quite that particular. So, we went to that office maybe a week before to kind of see their process of insurance verification. And that was too late to learn that little piece of information wasn't going to transfer quite the same. So we did attempt to give the task of, here's what I want you to do with these patients. I want the insurance verified through this date. Here's exactly what I want you to do. They did the best they could. And I don't know how we could have changed that because we didn't have the staff to go over to their practice to show them or teach them how insurance verification works or what our processes are or what information that is mandatory that we have. So I don't know how we could have done that differently, maybe other than just being closed a week to get caught up on the insurance verification. We did scramble a lot in that aspect. We were just, really all we could do is just make sure they were active at that point.
Right.
We couldn't go forward with treatment plans and feel confident that it was accurate. So I don't know the best way to do that.
And I think part of that also could just be the expectation that there are some things that you will scramble with for that first week. I mean, you get everything set up, you transfer over, you get the software in place, you make sure you've got all the licenses changed, you've interviewed all the employees, you do the absolute best you can. But then there's also, I think also the expectation of just know. At least for me, my experience was every time I've transitioned an office or merged an office, it's usually a 3-month shakeout. I call it the 3-month shake of expect it to be chaotic for 3 months. It's chaos. It's nuts. You put in a ton of hours. You were like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about this, or we didn't put this together, or why is this way? But then it starts to become cleaner and easier. But I found it was always a 3-month stretch of time where it just felt insanity chaotic and I couldn't figure out why. So from my angle looking at it, I would say that that's probably just, one of those live and learns. And on the next one, it could even be a prepping. But a lot of times when they merge or it's an acquisition, the team does not know until the day that you come in and it's already sold. And that's done intentionally so teams don't bounce.
Right.
But I would say, you have the best systems. Here's the form that we expect. This is what we do for processes. But also, I think it's a game of what's the most important thing to put into place and when. So as we're talking about this, Debbie, have you done this? If not, this is literally me just coming up with an idea. Have you kind of done a 30, 60, 90 day process or checklist for when you merge an office of these things need to get into place for the first 30 days, then 60, then 90? This is literally me just coming up with this on the spot. I'm sure you and Summer have talked about it. Is that something you've done?
No, not formally.
Okay.
No, we sure haven't. That's brilliant.
This is why we podcast, Debbie, because as I was saying it, as I was listening to you, I was like, Debbie, this is what we should do because could you imagine if we made that and we could then give offices that as, okay, these things all need to get done within a 90-day process, but in 30 days, these are the most important things to get done. Insurance verification probably should be popping in those first 30 days. Super important.
Right.
That way you're not scrambling. But maybe we're not doing, I'm like end of day checklist. So like, what are the first things that really are going to make a huge impact of streamlining for systems? That way the team and you as the practice administrator or regional could actually make it easier for a transition as you go through this. Because I guarantee you, knowing Dr. Kassmel, this is not your last merger or acquisition you're going to do. I'm 99% confident that she's going to do another one.
I think you might be right.
So as we're doing this, so Debbie and I will work on this. Don't worry, podcast listeners. We will work on this on the back end. Brilliant idea over here that we'll do. But let's dive into some more of these, because I agree. Insurance verification. I love that you interviewed people. I love that you're rehiring people, and then you put into place systems. I also love that you mentioned you brought people over to your location to see what you guys did at your office so they could replicate it. What other things, as we're just kind of riffing on this, any other like shining moments or falling star moments that you found as you went through some of these mergers?
And you did mention that, yes, it's chaos for a good 3 months. And I think just remembering that and staying calm, your staff needs to see that you're calm and you can handle yourself. I lost it for about 24 hours, and I'm ashamed to say that my team did see that. So, I did learn from it, and I've done much better this second merger. It's calm, or stay calm. It does pass. It does get better eventually. I think just remembering that's really important, that your team can see you hold it together.
I completely agree. When I realized it was a 3-month, that's how long it's going to take for all this to shake through. It helped me stay calmer and realize that this is normal. I don't think anyone merges and there's not a lot going on. But I also think it's important to remember that even though we feel the stress and the chaos, the patients most of the time don't feel it.
Right.
So as long as the patient's having an awesome experience, the team's having a pretty decent experience, and they know, I also think setting the expectations of, hey guys, it's going to be a little wild for 3 months. Like, just so you guys know, there'll be a lot of changes. We're going to do our best to make this as smooth as possible. We want your input on it, but there will be a decent amount of changes for the next 3 months. And then it should smooth out and be super efficient and effective. When do you start doing your monthly one-on-ones with them, Debbie? Do you start that right away, or do you kind of give it a few months before you start meeting with them on a regular basis?
Yeah, we give it a few months. We're actually going to start those at the second merger in January. So we merged in October. So we'll start that in January.
Okay. So about that 3-month time period that we start to then roll into more system. When you did your second merge, what were some things that you felt you guys did really, really well? Maybe before you even merged, did you preset any things before you merged? Were there things that you were doing pre-merge that you thought were really effective for you?
So one of the things was the software that we prepared for. Dr. Kassmel had already been in and run reports and kind of knew what we were looking at production-wise, and hygienists if they were producing 3 times their pay. So those are always good things to look at. The other thing that we learned that we needed to look at in the second merger are credits. So that's an important piece to look at.
Those credits can sink you because there's a ton of them. And you're like, what the? Yeah. We're doing all this dentistry for free now that we bought this practice, and now there's all these credits there. Okay.
Right. One of the other things that I think we do well is assuring the team members coming over, they've already reviewed treatment plans for treatment that are going to be done in the new location. And just, I think, reassuring them that whatever you have discussed with your patient, that is what we're going to honor. And knowing that we're probably our write-off, during those first months are probably going to be out of whack a little bit, but we want to make sure that those patients are taken care of, and we're not, oh, by the way, you owe $200 more.
Right.
We wanted to honor everything that was discussed. The dental savings plan that office had in place, those plans are honored just as if they were in the old place, and we would gradually transition them to our plan.
Got it. I see. And that is smart, because that does help retain patients and patient loyalty, and it doesn't feel like a whole disruptive. I think a lot of times we stress that the patients feel all of our stress, but I try to remind people that honestly, your patient comes twice, maybe 4 times a year. I mean, most patients we don't see more than that per year. They come in for their 2 cleanings, then they come in for maybe 1 or 2 treatment appointments, and that's it. So they're not seeing all the chaos that we feel.
Right.
And as long as we have a really incredible experience for them, that's what they're experiencing. That's what they're feeling. And I try to help teams when they are merging or acquiring another location, that helping the team to also create that experience. But I also feel one thing you guys do really well is you get the team to feel that they can get feedback, they can talk to you. It's a very open communication.
Yes.
So they also feel comfortable and confident recommending the doctor. I do have another question. Did you guys ever put in like your A team into practices? Meaning, did you have your lead assistant, hygienist, front office, whomever, did any of them ever go and just kind of help like plunk down into the new location? Or did you keep remaining team members there and just try to bring over systems after they saw your flagship location? How did that work out? Did you ever have a traveling team go, or was it primarily just training them, the people that were, I don't want to say being bought, but they were bought with the practice, the new team members coming in?
No, we haven't done that yet. We're actually talking of sending our front office lead over for some training. So we're planning on doing that. We have had some of the team members come over to our Eagle location.
I see.
And just shadow the offices. We just haven't had the luxury or the availability to not have that staff member in place over here.
And that makes it real tricky. And that's where it comes down to, and I mean, I haven't done this experiment because I don't know many offices that want to experiment with me on this, but my thought has been, even if we shut the practice down, so the brand new practice that we bought for a day, 2 days, 3 days, maybe. I know that sounds terrifying because we're losing production, but really having a hyper-focused training of, okay, you're going to go work and you're actually going to run this hygiene column with the lead hygienist helping you. So you learn the systems, you learn the flow, you learn it. Or having your traveling team, so 3 days at our main location, we shut down a couple columns and our main leads actually travel over to the new location to help coach and mentor at that location. Because I know I sent a traveling team when I did this, and it was awesome. But it also was negative because I felt like by sending the traveling team to the new location, the existing team members didn't really work that much because the doctor just relied on the traveling team. Okay. Because the doctor was comfortable with the traveling team.
Sure.
And so I felt like a lot of the existing people didn't really get trained because it was like, oh, like it's too hard to work with this assistant. Just bring in the main assistant.
Right.
Because they were there and available. So that's where, again, if any of the listeners have done this where you've shut down a practice for a few days, you've trained them, in my mind, in the way I see systems and the way I've trained a lot of offices, again, I've never tried this. So this is just Debbie and I riffing here, guys. You're just a part of our private conversation. But I am thinking, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, Debbie, if they came over for 2 to 3 days, it sounds terrifying to shut down production, but my thought is there'd probably be less chaos, better results in a faster amount of time because you took the time to train. Obviously, if it was a really intentional training, not just a haphazard come watch. What are your thoughts on that one?
Sure. You know, I love that idea. We recently hired a new staff member over in the Eagle location, and we set aside 2 weeks where Julie trained her. She was away from the front. She was away from the phones. It was focused. It was intent. And it seems to be working out great. We haven't got much past the 2 weeks, so we need to keep working on the 3rd and 4th, 5th week. But, you know, I've tried to train and try to do my job at the front, and it's awful. I mean, even when I go over, you know, to the Avon location and I want to teach something, you can't even get a focused, 2 or 3 minutes to teach this one particular thing without a patient walking in or the phone ringing and you're distracted. So I actually love the idea of no distractions. It's focused, it's intent, and maybe even quizzing and putting it into practice.
I completely agree with you. And like the other office, what they did when they would shut down is they actually turned the location that they just purchased. They painted it the same color scheme. They would put in artwork so it was very similar to their flagship location, their main location. They would set up all the rooms and the operatories and the front desk. So they were very similar, set up the software. So it was kind of like an office makeover. Obviously, they tried to keep some of it feeling still the same. You don't want your patients to walk in and be like, whoa, this doesn't even feel like where we used to be.
Right.
But that's what this office would do. And during that time, while the office was down, while they were renovating, doing some quick, making it just feel the same, they would send the employees over to the main location and they put them through a pretty strong training program to make sure that they were totally ready to go as they went back. And I also think it does build morale. It builds, I mean, yes, your flagship is inundated with a lot of people. I think that's hard. But you can also use those team members to help set up the operatory, say like, okay, dental assistant crew, go to the main location. Let's see what those ops are. You collaborate with the assistants from what your ops are at your current location. And then you're going to go back and set up the operatories so they're identical to whatever we establish as our main thing. But I really, as we talk about mergers, I feel like a lot of the chaos comes from the fact that we're trying to build systems and change up a lot of things while being charming and pleasing and smiling to all these patients, and the phone never stops ringing, which is great. We want it to ring,
Right.
but we're trying to do all that and change. And I think that's actually why it takes 3 months to shake versus being super intentional for a couple of days so we don't shut down the whole way, but really, really getting everything up to par as opposed to trying to piecemeal it around for 3 months. So, so Debbie, I'm excited. We just came up with a whole plan for your next merger, plus learning what you guys have already done. But I love what you talked about of the software, making sure it's the same software, truly interviewing team members so that way they know what you're about, making sure they want to opt into it, and really rehiring them, having them go shadow at the Flagstaff, giving them a 30, 60, 90. We did discuss building a 30, 60, 90 of what systems to implement at what time as we merge in. And then also, I love that you talked about, making sure that the team, you honored everything that the team had told them before. Because I think that builds confidence in the team with you as the new owners. Plus, it also helps the patients really stay retained for you. So I love that. Are there any other nuggets or things, or was that a solid recap for you? Because I truly love this discussion with you.
Well, and I think, coming from their practice, they're their patients and they love them like their family. And that staff and team wants to be assured that we are going to love and take care of those patients just as they did.
Totally agree.
So, and that's one of our core values is we always want to take care of our patients. They come before anything. And so I don't know. I love bringing in new patients, new team members, and not incorporating, but welcoming them to our family.
And I love that you just said it that way. I think that's an actual fantastic way to wrap this up is a merger and an acquisition is welcoming new patients, new team members into your family. Yes, we run it a little differently. We do things differently. We're open to change from both sides to make it be the best experience for team members and for patients. So that way it's just a really incredible experience all the way around.
Right.
I love it, Debbie.
Yeah.
And I just love chatting mergers. So thank you for sharing that knowledge. Like I said, Debbie, we're on a podcast, so this will be aired out to everyone. But truly, I would love to work with you and Dr. Kassmel if you guys are open and let's build a 30, 60, 90 of mergers from all of our ideas. Dental A-Team people, if you've got something like this that you want to chime in, I think it could be an incredible resource that we could offer just to make it easier, because I think mergers and acquisitions they can be so stressful that we forget some of the simple things. And if we just had a quick checklist, I think it could make all of us a lot more efficient and less stressed and make it an easier transition for everybody.
Right. And it keeps us on track to know that we're moving in the right direction. We're going to get there. Exactly.
There's light at the end of the tunnel, Debbie. It's coming in. So awesome. Well, Debbie, as always, I appreciate you taking time to chat with me, to share your knowledge. You have a wealth of knowledge and you really give so much to the dental community. And I appreciate you taking time to chat with me. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Kiera. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you. All right, Dental A-Team listeners, this has been Debbie. Debbie is fantastic. And Dental A-Team members, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll catch you next time on the Dental A-Team podcast. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A-Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.